So almost 40 years ago, I was working in a semi-institution in Lancaster for folks with intellectual disabilities, and I saw an ad in the paper. And it was a Volunteers of America ad to run what we then called their MRDD services, mental retardation, developmental disabilities. And I applied through the paper, and that was my job. I got hired to work as they were beginning to move folks from the Fort Worth State School, the local institution, into the community. And VOA was one of the first places chosen to operate group homes for folks who were making that move. We got our first HCS program. They were awarded then through an RFP, and we put in a competitive proposal and got a what they call slot program for HCS services. And eventually I became the COO. And so they chose me to kind of say, hey, how could we help in states that institutions are closing, help our affiliates develop group homes and other supports for those folks who are transitioning? So my job was to determine where we had the most opportunity for success, to work with the affiliates, to negotiate the state contracts, to go to those state institutions and interview clients and help them get moved, to hire the senior staff, all those kinds of things to set up those services. And so I was able to do that in 5 or 6 states and move people who had spent decades living in institutions into community group homes. And so not only were we having a positive impact on people's lives, we were also building a financial foundation for the affiliate and some services that they could depend on for years to come. So when I was working for the national office, one of the things that national does is they monitor the success of all the affiliates around the country. And VOA Texas got into considerable difficulties. And so the national office does what they only do in extreme cases, which is they pull the charter. And because I lived in Texas, I lived 20 minutes or less from the affiliate office, I was appointed as an interim CEO and sent in to, let's see if we can fix this and get it turned around. And that's how I got to be the CEO. It was kind of odd because I didn't exactly apply. I was just the one standing there, and it's like, okay, this person's been silly enough to take on this mammoth job, so we're just gonna let her keep it. So the first couple of years, it was a lot about getting folks aligned in the program, particularly folks who knew what to do, who were competent, but also felt an allegiance to the mission of Volunteers of America. And leading with that message, continuing to talk about who we are, why we do what we do, giving people foundation, try to be transparent about the problems we were having. And I said, you know, I'm not Santa Claus, but if you'll tell me what you need, we're gonna get it done. And we started doing things that people could see, you know, painting the building, filling in the potholes. We spent almost $800,000 the first 2 years I was here just doing preventive maintenance, catching up. And so that people could look around and they could see things are changing, things are improving, and they could start to act from a mindset of we can do this, we can do quality things, and energize the organization. You know, it's challenging, but you could also see that you were making progress, one little part of the elephant at a time. We were really fortunate. We got our charter back in about 4 years, a little less than 4 years, kind of record time. We were able to start getting our own board built. We had to have 12 members. We had to have improved financials, which we were fortunate that happened. The day I was able to go to a national board meeting and hand them a check for over $1 million to pay back our loans was one of the highlights of my career. Nobody had ever done that. So that was exciting, and that also helped us get our charter back in record time. I see the vast array of what we do every day, and it is inspiring, it's energizing, and I've never had a day that I came to work and couldn't see that we did something that day to change people's lives. Changing people changes communities, and I've been really fortunate to be able to see that. We've also changed some of our basic tenets, you know. We've come out with a new mission statement. We've come out with new cardinal doctrines, new ways to talk about ourselves, and the public has begun to understand more of our role. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family about the work you do. Be proud of it and ask them to join in making a difference. That, I think, is how the world changes. One person, one heart, one mind at a time. And you don't realize the network you have that can become part of that difference. So keep at it. If you look at some of the individuals I've worked with over the course of my career, their life didn't change much. They still couldn't walk, they still couldn't talk, they still couldn't feed themselves. But the impact you had that day on a person made their lives better that day, that moment. You know, I don't spend too much time worried about how I showed up 10 years ago or how I'm going to show up 3 weeks from now. I try to stay focused on how am I showing up right now. Because the person I'm dealing with who's sitting in front of me, who may be looking to me for support, who may be looking to me for encouragement, they need me to show up now. And that's what I try to do. You know, you don't leave when things are in trouble. You leave when you've left stable foundation so that the next person has the best chance to be successful. And that's what I'm trying to do through the season of Lent, so that when we get to Easter and I'm kind of resurrected into my next role, she has an opportunity to come out and celebrate the new resurrection as she assumes leadership on a strong and viable organization. There is no doubt in my mind that VOA will continue to be successful because I'm leaving it in good hands under Danita's leadership. I am completely confident.